so much more to it. But I kind of get the feeling that at this point, most of us was expecting Undertaker to win and the streak to go on. But then, a year later, of course, that was all to come to an end, and I don't think anybody saw that coming. So it would have been as shocking as the year later, that's for sure. You see now Taker taking control of CM Punk. That mean haircut of Undertaker there. I have to say, Undertaker in those like this attire with where it's like tights instead of the trousers. Me personally, I preferred that. I don't know why, but I liked it all in one. I hated the ones where and I think he did it when he came back and faced Brock for the rematches, where he looked more like the badass type version. But it was a bit of there was something odd about it. But man, this was guy of his age, even at this time, his size doing that move is incredible. I think, like most people, when he finished the match with Roman Reigns, which was a couple of years after this, I really fully expected Undertaker to be done, but just unbelievable how long he's lasted, isn't it? In all this. I think of like all the people that could have faced Taker for his streak, because that was the big thing. Like, I suppose really you didn't really need the title, although I just said about having the title. The streak was kind of bigger than the title. I could argue that at this time. I think there was some truth to that. It just would have been nice for CM Punk to put something on the line. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. But the other thing as well, of course, is the fact that, that streak just carried so much weight with it that it really, I think even probably, I'd say from 2024 onwards, it did mean more than the title, and I think that was the big catch, who would go in and face for it. Certainly when Brock Lesnar ended the streak, I think that, you're talking about 21 years of just, the rub almost, just on one guy. So it's a hefty accolade. I don't think it'll ever be recreated. I don't think they're ever going to have someone not be beaten at WrestleMania the way Taker, and I think they'll be very respectful to him in that way. Because his record at WrestleMania, even if somebody kind of did, they still uphold his record in a way. Like, even though he's lost 2, like, it's still a big thing. I'm so glad that he gets the match with AJ this year, because I think that's just he's gonna knock it out of the park. He really needs someone like an AJ. But yeah, the names that you look back on that got to face Taker, obviously, there are names in there that are a little bit like, what? People like Mark Henry, people sort of raise eyebrows at, especially at the time that match went on. I think that was at like WrestleMania 22. But he's had like Orton, he's had Triple H 3 times, Shawn Michaels twice, Punk here. You got John Cena for second, obviously. Wasn't a whole lot. Did have the match with Bray. But yeah, there are some funny ones in there, like King Kong Bundy that we did a watch along on at WrestleMania 2. He came back. They brought him back for a match at WrestleMania 11 to do that. That was quite interesting. And obviously, I think the match that always gets, you either love it or you hate it, WrestleMania 13, the main event with him and Sid. it's certainly not the most 5-star match, but I think in terms of what it meant, Undertaker main eventing, winning the title, first time at WrestleMania, for me it was like a massive deal. But I think it's not aged well, that match, unfortunately. So I guess I should be talking more about the match here. I'm going off on random rants. Using a lot with the whole prop with the urn, which I think's cool, that the fact that they brought that back. See Paul Heyman there with it. It was such an iconic thing, but it's good because it's like, it's kind of in a way it respects the Paul Bearer a bit here. Kind of a bit of a nod. The fact that, of course, CM Punk, you know, it's in this at this stage, like he did not leave like until next year, just after the Rumble, obviously. But the sort of time period between now and towards the back end of the year, it was so sort of all over the place, really, for him. Like, it was some good bits and bad bits. I mean, he had like a hot match with Lesnar that he would get the win on, although it wasn't clean. And yeah, at that point he kind of went back as the babyface. But I kind of did prefer Punk in this heel role. I think that it suited him a lot more. And I think if he was going to come back, I think that he'd have to sort of maybe be a similar kind of character. Just the way his attitude is somewhere, it really fits it. I'm not sure what a guy like Taker would have made of CM Punk, but I'm sure he had deep respect for him. You know, like all the stuff that Punk had done on the indies, and obviously how much he'd grown in WWE. He certainly had some classic bouts with John Cena, did CM Punk, no doubt about that. Nice snap suplex there by Taker. You forget sometimes how good Undertaker is with stuff like that. You know, just how many guys he's worked with like that, and sort of complements their style. This is a big stage here in MetLife, you know. It's going to be crazy this year to think, as we draw ever closer to this weekend's WrestleMania, that, you know, nobody's going to be there. It's talking about that a lot, all over the place at the minute, aren't they? What they're going to do, some suggestions, some ideas. Going to see that Taker looking to go over the rope, and then Heyman comes up. You know what's interesting about Heyman is this rarely ever happened. Like this whole, I think he did more of this whole heel manager stuff with CM Punk. We rarely see him doing stuff like that with Brock Lesnar. Although Brock Lesnar most times is playing the heel, it's very rare that Paul Heyman ever gets involved. So it's very difficult to not think Brock Lesnar is just the man, because he does it all himself as well, and it's just kind of his attitude that people maybe don't like. But here we go now, Punk. Got a lot of people up there ready for this. Very HBK-ish, I'd say that. Of course, our last match, which if you haven't checked it out, was a classic. Kurt Angle up against Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 21. So good. I think I have to say, out of all the matches I've done, and although we're only, as we go through this, but I would say it's been very hard to beat that one. The ones that I've watched thus far. Started with Warrior and Hogan, King Kong Bundy, and Hogan as well. We've had John Cena and Batista. And a real variety of matches that people have selected and put forward. Undertaker there with a choke slam and a kick out. Heyman's reactions are just absolute gold on the outside there. Just like hugging that urn. Doesn't want it to go or anything else. Nice elevation. That's the thing about Undertaker working with somebody like a Punk, like an AJ Styles, is that they can kind of do a lot for Taker, especially at his age and the stage he's at in his career. It can only help Undertaker, but sometimes the issue is when Taker's in there with, you know, other guys that maybe don't have that for him. It makes it a little bit more difficult for him, like especially with that match with Goldberg that he had recently. That was a nightmare. There you go, the old snake eyes. Oh, nice. Yeah. It's a lot more back and forth than I expected. I thought this was going to be like CM Punk controlling it for most of the match. But it's much more 50-50 than I thought. Than I remember it being anyway. I was trying to think where I was when I was watching this WrestleMania. Trying to think of got to think of the year it is as well, obviously. I always do different things. I know a few of you emailed me, what am I going to be doing this year? Do I have any rituals? Not really, and this year's a bit of a, it's going to be a bit of a lonely one, obviously, through isolation, but I got my Amazon order in time for WrestleMania weekend, so I'll be okay. I have a few drinks, have a few snacks, It's the only thing going at the moment, I'll tell you. Oh, man. Oh, I thought it was going to happen the last ride there. Cool thing about Taker is that if he really respects you, he'll let you put more in. I think that's what it is with Taker. I think if I remember this right, it's a big moment coming up right now. Attendance here, or the official attendance, it says here 80,676. That's massive, man. What a sea of people. The tagline, because I've been reading out a lot of these taglines. Well, according to this, there is no tagline. But it should be called Twice in a Lifetime, really. That was crazy then. One of those tables again as well, eh? I think they'd stopped using the whole reinforced business, thank goodness, by this point. It's fascinating with these WrestleManias as well, because this is all very much... I wonder as well if this was the... I can't remember when the whole network started, but no, I'm guessing this is pay-per-view. This is pre-network, isn't it? Funny enough, the Shield were involved on this night. This might have been their debut, as a matter of fact, as I think it was anyway. They went up against Big Show, Randy Orton and Sheamus. Not a memorable match, because it doesn't really get talked about an awful lot, does it? That it was a real mixed match as well, having Big Show, Randy and Sheamus. It was like, throw these three guys that are not doing much together. But the only thing I am probably surprised about is watching this match here is the fact that the card was a lot it wasn't as deep as I remember it being, which is this is my go-to size of a card between